What's up, everybody? Once again, it is I, James, coming to you from the Nerdy Musings podcast studio. I am very excited to be joined today by possibly the biggest jerk on YouTube and within the comic collecting and comic art world. Uncle Jerk is here with us today. How you doing today, sir?
I'm feeling like a jerk, so I guess I'm doing good.
You even got the shirt.
I was gonna say, gotta be sporting the James Edward Clark jerk
I
comic
love it.
stuff.
That's amazing. Yeah, that's so I think it's appropriate to start. How did the Uncle Jerk moniker come to be?
So, like, I get asked this question a lot. I'm gonna make it as short as I possibly can. Like, originally, the kind of Uncle Jerk persona came out of I had a band and I used to do performance art, that kind of stuff. But I've got really bad social anxiety. I deal with real bad mental health stuff. I mean, I'm agoraphobic and just really gnarly stuff. So going
Well, and
out is
just not to sidetrack us too much, but I've always admired about you how open you are about that. So I wanted to say that right out the gate because I think it can help a lot of people who are listening as well.
That's why I talk. Sometimes I feel like I'm whining. Like people that follow me, I always hope they don't think that I'm whining, but I like to share because I grew up, in this whole idea of toxic masculinity. You didn't talk about anything. So I suffered through all of this mental illness basically on my own. I didn't take medication. I just thought something was wrong with me. But I wanted to make music. I wanted to be somehow in front of people, but I didn't want to be in front of people. And once a year, like Halloween, I hate holidays. Don't want to go into why. Whole crazy story, but I hate holidays. Halloween is my one jam though, and we would always play a Halloween concert. And me and my roommate at the time, who was my drummer, we grew up like we made a comic book back in high school, Middle Age Mutant Ninja Turtles, and a Mr. T comic and stuff. So we were big comic book nerds, and we would do these like EC style, like knockoff parody posters, and we invented characters for ourselves. So like our guitarist was a mummy, and we had a gill man that was our drummer, and a werewolf as our bass player and stuff. And I myself was like, well, I love mummies, but I'm the lead singer, so I have to look cool. So I gave him a cape, and I was like, well, that's just Doctor Doom or Mum Ra. So I gave him goggles. And after a while, he just kind of became this like thing that I dressed up as. And that segued into an ability for me to like separate myself from Roman and a freedom that I'd never really experienced. And a lot of years later, my nephews started calling me Grunkle Jerk because of Adventure Time, Grunkle Stan. And I loved Grunkle Jerk. I was like, that describes me perfectly. I'm the creepy uncle that comes over and everyone's like, what's wrong with him? He's into comics. God only knows. He reads all of those superhero books. And so when I started the YouTube channel, like I was doing little tiny, shorts at first, but almost immediately I decided I couldn't do that. I had to do these deep dives. I had to talk about stuff that really interested me, and the stuff that I gravitated towards was not what I would call happy material. And it's not because if you watch my channel, it's not because I like to hammer away and like crap on someone like Stan Lee. Okay, it's not, I don't have an episode where I crap on Stan Lee and try to take credit from him. I have a series about Jack Kirby that's like 6.5 hours long that lays out how everybody screwed him. And I will
Yeah.
tell you that by the middle of that documentary, I was literally like fighting back tears, reading back some of these interviews and stuff. And I was talking about stuff that is very obscure. I dig super deep. I talk to everybody. I get people off of the record. I always get permission to use quotes, but I will get people off of the record to tell me stuff that is would blow your mind about the industry. So when I started doing the channel, I was like, I want to be anonymous. I do not want my favorite inkers and writers and artists and stuff like finding me on YouTube and being like, hey man, why are you bringing up all of this crap? And I got on the channel, and the persona that I had invented, obviously for the band didn't work. And it kind of has evolved into whatever this is now, because this is not Roman. Like, just so everybody knows, when you talk to me, when I interact with you, everybody's always like, you talk so much and you're always out there and you're always so positive and you talk about mental health issues and this and that. That's Uncle Jerk. That is this character that I've created that's been really helpful and amazing to me. But that is where Uncle Jerk came from, is like an offshoot of my mental illness, basically. It's a
Yeah,
way to avoid reality.
you've created this persona to allow you to have the freedom to get in front of people and interact to a different level than you would normally would be able to.
Yep. And to speak my truths. 100%. Like when Uncle Jerk's telling you, like, I'm sitting crying in my room, or I found this out about XYZ and all these horrible stuff in the comic industry, it's way easier to say that than like Roman standing in judgment of somebody.
For sure. Now, going back to the YouTube channel, did you have any inclination towards wanting to get into putting stuff out on YouTube previously? Was this something that just kind of hit you? Like, I want to get on and talk more about comics with the, have a wider reach with the community and everything. How did that all come to be with your YouTube? And before you answer, big props, because I love the long form stuff. And as you mentioned before, you go to great extents to have the receipts, as they would say. You've got a lot of receipts. You do your research in depth, and these are long form, like very in depth series about all these topics that you cover. So, one, how did you get the idea to start doing that? And two, when did you kind of decide that the long form nature was going to be your focus, and that you wanted to make a lot more work for yourself in doing that?
I was gonna say I'll answer that in reverse order because I think it'll be
All right.
easier. The reason that I went long form with the channel was I am a very detail oriented guy. My dad's got a PhD in political science. My mom is a neurobiologist and also has a PhD in social sciences. So I come from an environment of research. When I look at something, I look at it analytically, and once I'm done doing that, then I look at it biasly. And once I'm done looking at it biasly, then I will research it again with having combined those two different aspects. I know that might sound strange to anybody who does journalism, but I think that is one of the things that kind of sets me apart. Now, the reason that I decided to go full long form is because I did a episode on Sam Keith and the Max, and I'm severely dyslexic and dysgraphic. I come from a very poor part of the country, was not diagnosed growing up. I could not read until I was 12. I learned to read from Hulk 368, which is the fill-in issue by Sam Keith and Kelly Jones. And thank God I got to interview Kelly and tell him thank you, thank you, thank you for making that comic. But um, I was talking about Sam, and I got like 50 minutes in, and I was like, man, there's so much that I'm leaving out and so much that I want to cover. And I had all of this research. I'd spent about a year on it, and I had my script and my hard drive crapped out. So I was
Mm.
back at square one. And my channel at that point, I think I had like 350, maybe 400 subscribers. I think I picked up 1,500 the first day that dropped, about 300 or 400 a day after that for months. It became really obvious that, like, even though I see Sam Keith as this niche thing, and it's something that I just felt really connected to, there were a lot of other people that wanted this kind of really in-depth analysis. So I was like, well, I basically remember the script. So I hammered that out, but I was like, maybe I can find a little bit more. I started reaching out. I found a guy who is a personal friend of Sam's, who granted me access to a 3-hour long unpublished interview where Sam laid out details that he had never talked about in public before.
Oh,
I
that's crazy.
Yeah, I reached out. I interviewed William Mesner Loebs, who's the co-creator, and he's credited as basically like scripting. He co-plotted. He did all the dialogue. He helped co-write the Max. I did the biggest, most in-depth. It was a 4.5 hour interview with him. I talked to Don Chin, who was the guy who originally published him. I talked to Jeff Nicholson, who had known him since high school. I talked to Kelly Jones, who'd known him since high school. And I fell down this rabbit hole. And it was like, there is no way that this is going to be a, 1 hour, 2 hour, 3 hour. I'm just going to go with it. And it ended up being, I think, 8.5 hours for the core documentary, which is like 5 parts at about an hour and a half to 2 hours a piece. And then 3 expansion episodes about stuff that tied into that on top of it, and a podcast for my Patreon members that talked about stuff that I didn't think was worth spending time in the actual documentary. Total overkill. Took me 3.5 years to research, write, produce, edit, release this thing. I was like, that's going to be the YouTube channel. No one will ever care about anything I ever do again because it took me 3 years to get this done. To this day, I still get compliments from people that have worked on the book, that have worked at Image. I get people that are just getting into the series that hit me up. And it was like, as soon as I knew that long form worked, that's where my heart was at. And I was like, I am going to Ken Burns the shit out of comic books. Like, I would rather it be 2 hours too long and you played at 2x speed rather than leave out a bunch of stuff that I think is essential building blocks. And so like, why did I start the whole channel to begin with though? Like what motivated all of this? Why would a person suffer the mental illness of making a 10-hour documentary alone in their house, scripting the whole thing word for word, editing it? I love performance. I love sharing with people. And a big part of my dyslexia, dysgraphia is that I think circularly. I don't think linearly. Because my neurons don't actually fire that way in my brain, which I'm sure a lot of people will notice in this interview, like going round and round in circles. But I always come back to a point somehow. And it was like, when I started doing the channel, I was able to really hone in on what I had been working on when I was going to film school. And I was like writing film scripts, and I was never really fulfilled doing that. There was just something missing. Music was great. I hated being live and performing in front of people, and I don't like just digitally releasing music. So when I found the YouTube channel, it was like, this is like perfect middle ground. Because I do my own soundtrack for the YouTube channel too. So it's like, if I want to produce music, I can do music for the channel. If I want to shoot live video for the channel, I can do that and do video. If I want to do animation stuff, I can do that. And I've taught myself editing and audio recording. And it was just a lot of stuff that I'd like really wanted to do that all kind of convalesced into this really wonderful opportunity to create a channel.
That's so cool, man. I wanted to talk a little bit about, most people probably know or are familiar with what dyslexia is in a basic sense. But you've spoken about dysgraphia, and I remember when we chatted before, that's not only dyslexia is like left and right, but dysgraphia is top and upside down, basically, right?
Yeah. So like, have you ever gotten tired and you look at a card, think of the shining carpet, okay? And like you're super tired, your eyes just can't quite focus, and it feels like you're almost slipping in between those shapes. You can
Mm-hmm.
feel stuff like optically shifting and moving. You know it's not actually happening, but it's almost like a visual hallucination. That is me every minute of every day. My brain can't process left to right or up to down properly. And everyone's like, come on, man, just use the thing. That does you no good if neither one of these looks like an actual guy. And this,
Yeah.
what are you up, down? I have no clue.
Yeah.
So my brain does not process patterns in the same way that other people do. And like, it made reading extraordinarily difficult. Like nigh impossible. I didn't know how to stop the words from, because dyslexic, a lot of times we'll have to kind of along the line. I couldn't even do that because I couldn't continuously move left to right. I would go backward and shift
Yeah.
back and forth, and I still had to have part of the page covered up. And when I draw now, that's like something that I cannot explain to people. It is like riding a roller coaster sometimes because your brain's like down, up and around, and then left to
Hmm.
right. What's happening?
Yeah, and that's what I wanted to get to next was I would never believe if I didn't know you and we hadn't spoken about this, just looking at your art, if I knew nothing about what you just informed the audience on, uh, dude, your work's amazing. Like the pieces that you do and the level of quality and detail and just I mean, everybody listening and watching is probably shocked to learn that you're doing that all despite what you're dealing with.
Well, yeah, because like, not to harp on it, but again, very open dude, and like I think it's part of why I went through so many mental health struggles. Like I got diagnosed with what's called essential familial tremors. I was working as a tattoo artist, and my hands aren't bad tonight, but a lot of time, yep, there was a good one,
Yeah, there you go.
and just
Now that
every
you're
once in
thinking
a,
about it.
yep, I was gonna say if I, and you can just see it's not too bad tonight, but you don't want somebody that looks like that tattooing you. So I lost my job, and they teach you in tattooing, you live or die by the line. One pull, it has to be perfect, straight lines all the time. When I started, I was capable of doing that by about a year and a half, 2 years in. Uh, Most certainly not. And
Yeah.
I quit drawing for 4 years, and thank God, Victor Alpe, who publishes Hugh Marks, a good buddy of mine, Phil, and another good buddy of mine, Bob, that I had met online through the channel, saw some of my old stuff and just literally berated me until I drew again. And um, it was freeing because I didn't have to worry about the one line pulls anymore. I can't do them. I will never do them again. It was really freeing, and like hearing compliments about my art still makes me very uncomfortable. Um, I'm sure you guys can see me like squirming around in my chair and stuff. I like had Rob Schraub, who I've worshipped since 1994, published one of my favorite comic books. I did a 3-hour documentary that he used as his official Scud documentary. Blew my mind.
Oh,
Like,
nice.
the co-creator of Rick and Morty emails me out of nowhere and he's like, "Hey, thank you." And I'm like, "You're welcome. Please be on the channel. Can I interview you?" Oh my God. Yes, absolutely. Comes on. And the dude tells me I'm a better artist than he ever was. And like, I don't know how to explain to people like how much that, like, first of all, that's not true. Anybody watching this? No, Rob Schraub is an infinitely better artist, but like having people compliment me still, because when I look at stuff, it I see the shaky lines and me concealing stuff, and
Yeah,
I
you know how the cake was made.
yeah, and I think probably what made it even worse is like last year, I think it was maybe a year and a half ago. They flew me out for a Micah Allred documentary. I did a floating head interview for a Mike Allred documentary that's getting produced called Space Face, and I was talking to Mike, and God bless him. God bless him. Now, Mike is the sweetest dude on I mean, super sweet. And I was sitting at his kitchen table. His son Han had me over for family dinner. There's 8 of us sitting around, and I'm there with Laura. And it's just like I'm taking all of this in utter shock. There's a Steve Rude painting right here. There's all of his originals for the comic strip pieces that they did, the newspaper that's running along the ceiling. In front, right in front of me, there was an original Kirby. Next to that is an Alex Toth. Next to that is a Frazetta, and he's telling me about when, him and Steve Rude were going to meet Alex Toth, and he's like, so who are your favorite artists, And I'm like, oh, Sam Keith and this and that, and you can see him shaking his head, and he's like, the lines, they can't draw. And I'm like, what? And he's like, well, you could see him concealing everything. They can't pull a clean line to save their life. And if you're an artist, you pull the clean
Oh
line and you
no.
do the contour. And I'm like,
Little
yep,
did he know.
you're right. You're right, Mike. I'm just going to drink my soda. You're right.
Oh.
So it's like when I look at my stuff, I want to have that clean line, but it's super freeing to have guys like you compliment me. And Rob Schraub, like, what the hell, dude? I mean, like, Michael Avon Oming just the other day started following me and was like complimenting my stuff. Like, what the heck? Gerardo Zaffino? Like, what the hell? That guy's one of the most talented artists on the planet. He follows. I don't understand. You people are insane. But thank you very much.
So it's not just me then. Is what you're telling everybody.
Apparently not. I mean, people pay me to make art. It's how I supplement my income at this point because I work at Arby's. I barely graduated high school because of my learning disabilities, and I had a kid and never got to go back to school, and I just nose of the grindstone ever since. I was hoping tattooing would be my way out, which is another reason that having art taken away was just like debilitating and crushing. So
I want to talk a little bit about your experience and your journey with comics. I want to go back and speak on that Hulk issue that really resonated with you, because I know that there's some pieces of this that kind of made things start to click for you and led, kind of started you on this journey to where you're at now.
So my dad was kind of like an absentee father. Like not by, to be fair, not by choice. My mother was an insane alcoholic and just wouldn't let him around. And Walden's put out this collection of Batman. It was a complete Frank Miller. It was a hardbound book. Came out came out, I think, in like 1989. It was the first ever mass market collection ever done. And my father, who hates funny books, as he still calls them, and only read them in the barber shop, bought it for me. Now, I had it for a lot of years, and I loved it, but I couldn't read it. I had it for years, and it, like, taunted me. It drew me into comic books, but somehow it taunted me because I could not decipher what it said. Hulk 368 came out, and I remember picking that issue up, and it was visually somewhat like some other stuff I had seen. I had seen Mage, which was, Sam Keith, his first real inking job, so I recognized the lines. But there was something that called to me about that book. Now, as an adult, I can tell you that is because Sam Keith and Kelly Jones got together, mind meld style, in Kelly's living room and put that book together in 2 days. And it is one of the most magnificent pieces of pop art ever created. Not just comics or anything like that.
Yeah, because that was kind of a fill-in in the middle of
That's exactly what it was.
In Keown's run, right?
Yeah, and it was when Sam found out, or rather, I guess, figured out, they were never going to give him Hulk because they were not super pleased, I guess, with that issue. And he would never have made the deadline. He showed up at Kelly's door on like a Friday and was like, bro, Monday, I got to turn it in Monday, please, Jesus. And they just sat down and hammered it, handing pages back and forth, inking, penciling, tweaking, finishing. And I will tell you, there is a panel in that book. It is a close up of Hulk's eye. And it is the most beautiful interior panel that I've ever seen in any comic. They used it as the inside of the artist edition, actually. And I saw it and I was like, I have to know what is happening in this book. And not like not go to my like little sister, because as embarrassing as that is, like I used to go to my little sister and be like, hey, what's happening? What is Superman saying to Batman? And with you, no, I am going to read this comic book. And I sat down and I just pounded my head against the wall. And eventually it was beautiful, man, because the way that comic books work was almost like arrows of being like, this is who's talking. And the arrow pointing towards it was like, oh, I'm coming towards the arrow, not left to right or up to down. I'm moving towards. I can walk forward so I can move towards the arrow. And it allowed me to like train my brain for the first time to stop everything from moving around on the page to aligning it and following this progression. And the storytelling in that book is incredible. Obviously, like Kelly's name wasn't on it, Sam's was, and I flipped shit. I was like, everything this guy has ever done, I'm going to own, I'm going to read. And less than 2 months after that, the announcement for the Max came.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the Max looks awesome. And in the future, I can say, like, obviously the storyline was amazing too. But I swear, guys, this is like, I don't believe in like God, white beard, fluffy clouds guy, but like greater power, something at work shit was going on, because I went and I bought the wizard that had the preview for the Max in it, because I was like, have to have anything Sam Keith at this point, right? So I pull it out. It's got a card. Flip the card over, and it says bio about Max. And at the bottom of the card, it says he's dyslexic. The first ever dyslexic superhero. Now, like, I've heard that this is an inside joke that didn't really come from anywhere. That fact makes it even more incredible. Not that he knew someone who had dyslexia, just that he was like, dyslexia, and put it on the back
Yeah.
of a car. To me, as a kid, I was talking to
Truly,
Sam.
truly
Sam was
spoke.
talking.
Yeah,
Yep.
it spoke to you.
Yep. And so I went, I picked up that first issue of the Max, and it was like the story was there. That dialogue was amazing. The art was incredible. I could understand it as a book. And yeah, that was like the beginning of like the second chapter of my life, I would say.
Did you ever have a chance to, via other sources, get this back to Sam? Do you think Sam knows how much you've been impacted by his work?
No. Um and on one hand, I'm profoundly sad about that. Um, and on the other hand, I am profoundly grateful. One of the Sam's things is like the Max is such a personal book for a lot of people that there are a lot of people that tell him, I met my wife or my husband, or I became a such and such, my profession I went to school for. You changed my outlook on life. When you say those kind of things to a creator, to us, it's a very positive thing. I met my wife because of you, man. To Sam, I met my wife because of you. And maybe in 2 years, we're going to break up because she's insane and she will break my heart. And it is
Right.
all your fault.
Yeah.
And it's like, I know that sounds crazy, but that's how Sam's brain works and processes. Um, I really hope now that he's retired from the industry, I I know enough people in the industry and that know him. I do hope that one day I am able to tell Sam at least thank you. I don't know if I could go so far as to profess like, man, you are the reason that I can read. You changed my life. You got me into comic books, which became a job, an ongoing passion, my YouTube channel. I do my art. That's how I spend every bit of my free time that's not with my family. You know, I don't know if I could tell Sam that, but I can, I probably will if I
Yeah.
ever get the chance. So there's like part of me that hopes I just get to pass along a message, maybe. And I have asked a couple of people to pass along messages. I know he's aware of the documentary.
I was going to say, he's got to be aware of that.
He's aware of it. I know 3 guys that work for him that have told me that, or not at this point work for him, but, you know, were assistants and stuff that have told me, like, he knows about the doc. I also know that he's not egotistical enough to watch it. He could never stand 10 hours about some asshole rambling on about him for that long. No. So I don't really worry about that, but I do get kind of, I got really involved with William Mesner Loebs, and I tried to, him and Sam don't talk, and I tried to get them hooked back up. And that didn't happen, but what did happen was a Hero Initiative print of the Max that was signed by Sam. Sam doesn't do appearances, he doesn't do signings, he doesn't do anything. It wasn't announced, it came out of nowhere, and a lot of the people that were involved, at least 2 of the people I know, had talked to me about my documentary. So I just hope that, like, whether or not I get to tell him like the actual words of thank you, that like I think that I really honestly think that print happened mostly because of the interview and the doc and the renewed interest and stuff. Because the doc hit 70,000. It's an
Yeah.
it's an 8-hour long documentary. The first part is sitting at I think like 80. Oh no 95,000, almost 100,000 views now. The last part is sitting around like 75 or 80,000. There's a lot of people that have just like hammered through the whole thing.
I
So
think I think the documentary in and of itself is a big thank you.
it
You
is.
know, in a way,
It
the
is.
fact
That's
that somebody took that much time and produced something to that extent that they weren't like getting paid to do, it's a pretty big thank you, buddy.
it was pretty amazing when I talked to it was cool when I talked to Rob Schraub. Because Rob's the one guy that's ever like espoused just how much the documentary meant to him. He was like, dude, you dug up interviews I didn't remember giving. He was like, you said some stuff where I was like, that did happen. And like when we were talking, he was like, I'm sure there's stuff you've always wanted to ask me. And I was like, no, I just really wanted to have you on to hang out with you in my head. And out loud, I'm like, yeah, sure. Trying to come up with questions to talk to him, you know? But like, that was amazing having him be as gracious about my documentary as I was about what he created. So if
For
I can
sure.
give that back to creators, wow, that is so much more than I'd ever envisioned for like not just my channel, like my life. Like to actually be able to thank those people,
Yeah.
never imagined.
Now, given that some of these documentaries take years to produce, how many do you have in the works?
At any given time, I probably have about 15 pieces that I am researching,
Okay.
which means that I'll do reading on them at least once a week. Log all of that, take note of like key stuff. The documentaries have to have an endpoint. You can't just do a sprawling Jack Kirby documentary because you're gonna miss so much stuff. You need a through line, some way to attack the topic And for Jack, it happened to be the Lords of Light, which was a proposed film, which was based on a novel, and was actually going to be a amusement park that Jack was going to design all the rides for. Actually, did design all of the rides and sets and stuff for. CIA stole all of that and used it for a for the Operation Argo, the movie with Ben Affleck. That's what they used all of the production material from this failed film that Kirby was involved with. So I did a Lord of Light documentary. But if you watch the Lord of Light documentary, it's just, I think it's 5 parts with a 1-part special that ends it. And it's the 5th part, which is like 5.5 hours in, where I talk about Lords of Light. Everything else is like first episode is all about Marvel. Then it's about him going to DC, then him going back to Marvel, then getting screwed over by everybody, doing animation, then going and doing Lord of Light, and then at the
getting
end,
screwed over by the CIA.
well, like, thank God the dude who did Lords of Light, like actually treated him well and stuff, and that production had gone tits up by the time that the CIA stole all of that stuff.
Okay. I just was adding it to a long line of
thank
Jack's
God, dude.
credit
Like, no,
stolen.
If you go and you like read the comments, it's just like, you're not the only one crying, bro. I'm dying. So like the last episode is a 6th episode that I produced. So it's like 45 minutes long. A Second Life for a Fourth World is what it's called. And it is nothing but superpowers and his design work for the action figures and going back to DC to do those mini comics. Because what a lot of people don't know is that Paul Levitz brought him back to do that stuff in an effort to reimburse him monetarily in ways that they could not do through DC. Because Toy Biz was footing the bill. So he got paid more for designing the Parademon toy alone than doing the entire Fourth World, every book that you ever read from the Fourth World and the stuff that you didn't see combined, plus Hunger Dogs off of one toy, and they had him design an entire line. So like, it's a great like lift me up, but you have to have these ways to attack stuff. And that was Lords of Light for Kirby. So like, when I find that through line, when I find that piece where I'm like, oh yeah, there it is. There's the biter. I put it on a list. I've usually got about 3 to 5 of those cooking at any given time. Those I'm reading on every day. I'm like emailing editors, like letterers, people that were like, I will get into letters. I'm a psycho. I'll get into letters pages and find out who is interning. I will get onto Facebook and look at people's public profiles. And if you're like, I interned at Marvel in 1986, and I can confirm, like, oh yeah, it's you, I will email you and ask you about stuff.
Yeah.
A lot of times that's crazy, but like, I found out there's an entire unused Max cover that was inked by a totally different guy, Tim Foster, who is an intern for Parody Press, which is Don Chin's company, that got an offer to intern over on the Max book. And he's like the only dude besides Sinclair that's ever done inking on Keith's stuff for the Max, really. So you find stuff. There's really interesting stuff. Right now, my big one is Wally Wood.
Oh, nice.
Probably, I'm finishing up my Michael Golden piece. I think I've got like 2 more episodes of that, and then a special about the Danzig skull that'll finish that one off. And then Wally Wood will probably be, I say most of it'll probably be all of next year. I don't know if I will be able to do Wally in less than like maybe 5 parts. So
if the Uncle Jerk nickname ever goes away, you could change it to the Comic Detective. Doing all your sleuthing, finding interns from ages gone.
You know, that would just become the Comic Dick really quick, right?
Exactly. You can take that one for free. I'll give the inspiration. I'll take my royalties later. I want to talk a little bit more about your amazing artwork that you are uncomfortable taking compliments about. Um, I saw that Nick Klein Hulk piece that you're working on right now. And this is the part of the podcast where I encourage everybody who's listening on audio to make sure they jump over and check out the YouTube version, because he's going to show off some of this stuff he's working on and some of the pieces he's finished.
Let's see. We'll pull out that Nick Klein piece because I
Yeah,
really love this stuff. Anybody who is not reading Hulk right now is missing
dude.
out. It is a visual like revelation. Let me see.
Man, that's stunning.
A little bit.
He gets the Hulk, man.
Yeah, he really does, man. He gets that like monster angle that
Yep.
Kirby played up, I think, a lot.
And the way he's depicting the transformations. Did you see the most recent issue?
No, I haven't, man.
Oh, bro.
I haven't been able to.
Yeah, there's a transformation sequence in that is out of this world.
Dude, all of his stuff is just, it's berserk. It's berserk. I don't know where Nick Klein came from.
Oh, that's that Max piece. Yeah.
Yeah, this one's going out this week, actually. I had a major problem with this one part of the face ripped off when I masked it.
Oh,
It's
no.
terrible. So I finally got that one drawn back in. This one's going out to a buddy of mine. And then I do like this was a fun one. This is a Cable Ghost Rider.
Oh, yeah.
Two
No worries.
split white. It's off the top right.
Yeah, it's always struggle when showing the artwork or comics on stream. I said it's always a struggle when showing comics and artworks on a stream on camera. It's the glare and stuff.
Oh,
that's a little bit better.
Yeah, I was gonna say at least there you can get a little bit of a look, you know.
Yeah.
More. Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, that cover recreation. This is a fun one. Like big old Wolverine piece.
Love it.
Yeah. Michael Golden. Oh, I was really happy with this one. I did this thing piece.
Oh yeah, that turned out great.
Yeah, Brett Booth. I'm a huge fan of Brett Booth. When I was growing up, obsessed with inkers. And I don't know a lot of people that got like obsessed with inkers, but I sure did. And so like that's really what I want to do is like ink. So a lot of the stuff that I do is taking like I'll do like recreations and homages and stuff, but I try to do something different with them. I hate just redrawing crap. People that do blue line and sell it pissed off.
Right. Yeah.
Got this like
oh, that's a sick. Is that Philip Tan?
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
And you can see like I use all of his hatching, but it's like I tried to make it smoother and more gradient to like almost look like an ink wash as opposed to like what he does, which is real apparent.
Well, and you've shown me, I've seen some of your pieces and your style, and it's interesting how you're able to capture the essence of the artist, but then you also you can see yourself in the pieces as well.
I appreciate that, man, because I spend a lot of time trying to like not just recreate it, but what would you do if you were an inker? Like if you were Terry Austin working with John Byrne, you tweak John's pencils, you change stuff, man.
Yep.
So I try to come in, and then I love realism stuff like this. Like this one's kind of hard to see. There's a lot of real nice grayscale shading on that one. Oh, this is a fun one. Like can't be a Sam Keith fan until
there you go.
You draw a naked furry Wolverine.
Yes, sir. Sam always did the hair, the arm hair and body hair and all of that so well.
If you want somebody to look like they got 10,000 hairs, you got to draw 10,000 hairs. That's what Sam said in an interview. I was like that one. That was a Pangea Max piece. Oh, here's a cool. Sam did a magazine cover back in the 90s. That was Wolverine versus Venom. And I got really obsessed with like, I don't know if you remember the 92 Marvel Universe cards.
Yeah.
But they had this like this color scheme. It's orange, red, and green, and I got really obsessed with it. So I like tried my best to reproduce that. This is some inking stuff that I did. This is a piece me and my homie Andre Lunatic did for
That's
the
sweet.
yeah. When I found Bill Mesner Loebs, he was living in a car. Um,
Oh,
he was
wow.
yeah he was homeless, working for the local church. Um, so like this is another piece I did with Andre. Um, and this I hate inking blue line. This is like my only two pieces of blue line I think that I've done in last like 3 years. I should have repenciled them. But when I found Bill, he was like homeless basically, and thankfully his art manager Mike has like gotten him back on his feet. But
Oh,
I
good.
run I run like benefits for Bill usually about once a year to just try to like sell art, prints, that kind of stuff. Um, and 2 or 3 years ago, no, longer than that, 3 or 4 years ago now, I used this design and this design. Um, these are both t-shirts that I drew. And they say like for Bill I can be a hero
Oh,
on them.
sweet. That's awesome, man.
Yeah, it's super cool. Anybody who visits my channel, I do have a store link on my channel. If you pick up one of the Bill Mesner Loeb shirts from my online store, all the money goes to Bill. I don't keep it myself, just FYI, guys. Ooh, Rob liked this piece.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah. And like I'm trying to teach myself painting now too. Like this is all done with like dyes and inks. Um, I found this stuff called Distress Inks, which is like kind of like a watercolor ink. It's amazing.
Oh, there you go. Fear and Loathing.
Yeah, and somebody
Yeah,
asked me like, "What if Sam Keith had drawn a Fear and Loathing comic?"
there it
Well,
is.
okay, here you go. That commission's getting ready to go out to Canada. Finally, I can mail stuff to Canada again.
Nice.
Um, oh yeah, it's a piece I did with my buddy Tom Travers. I always really like this Last Ronin piece,
Oh, that's cool.
and this is the stuff. Now, this is before I got. This is interesting. So I'll show you guys what happened with my art too, actually. Forget I still have these pieces. This is psychedelic artwork from before I got diagnosed with my hand tremor.
Oh,
So
interesting.
if you look at these like straight lines, those are full big straight lines, man. Um, and all of this is all stipple shading on the inside, all of what like looks like that gray work. But my hands were stopping working while I was doing this piece. I could feel something was not right. Um, and this is the last piece that I ever got done before my hands totally shot out on me. This Metaluna mutant.
Man, that's stunning.
And like it's kind of hard to get. There's just so many friggin' lines on this thing. Um, if you look at it, you'll be able to see how much cleaner and defined these lines and marks are as opposed to like when I do my hatching and stuff now. It's a totally different thing. Like
Yeah.
you can if you can see the hatch marks on his chest, they're totally uneven.
Yep.
I can't pull a straight
Still,
line.
still looks great.
I mean, I like I said, I try to not let it bother me anymore. It
Yeah.
is what it is, and people seem to enjoy my art. People tell me I don't suck, so I have to believe you guys.
Something that just popped into my head that I don't think I've asked you before in regard to your art. And I think I'm going to know the answer. I think you're somebody who prefers working in traditional mediums, given all the different mediums you work in. But have you ever considered utilizing digital for part of your process, like when it comes to inking, because you do have your little tools,
Nope,
your line corrections and things that you
that's
can
cheating.
do. There you
That's
go.
cheating.
I knew
I
that would be your answer, but I had to ask anyway.
Yeah, no, man. Like, to me, Terry Austin is. the inker. And when I look at Terry's stuff, when I look at Sinclair's stuff on the Macs, the freedom, the fluidity, the life to it, like, no, you don't. And nothing against
Yeah.
digital creators or anything. Absolutely nothing against you guys. A lot of my close friends work that way. I work on freelance. I draw, what I want when I want. I don't have to worry about deadlines and stuff either. So it's not
Yeah.
about cutting time and stuff. So, uh, the other thing that I have a really hard time explaining to people is try drawing on a tablet when you can't tell left or right, up or down in front of
Yeah.
you. Now try doing that with your hand on a pad while looking at a different fucking screen. Okay?
Well, even if you drew on an iPad, and in my experience, the iPad Pro feels the most like actually drawing, but it's
Mhm.
still not. There's still this little disconnect. So I can imagine with everything you're dealing with, the struggles and the challenges you have when you're producing your art, that one little thing like that disconnect could take you completely out of it.
It destroys it, man. And
Yeah.
like I have let myself let go of this, the definitive line, that straight line. I've let myself go, but I have to know that I'm making the art because, I do original stuff like that. Magneto was original. I think I sold my Galactus piece. And I do a lot of recreations, or I'll take like really rough con pencil sketches and tighten stuff down and try to, what would it look like if this was pencils for a pinup or something. Um, I would feel like I was like ripping people off, I think, if I was working digitally. Like if I was
Yeah.
printing, say, like Joe Mad's blue lines, and then inking them and then trying to sell, like, what are you even really selling someone? Because that's not,
Yeah, exactly.
you didn't draw those blue lines. Like, maybe, I guess, if you'd have drawn the blue line, but
Mm-hmm.
I can't, for me, like, I logically cannot do that. That would be like crossing a big moral line. For that'd be like me just signing my name to a piece or not being upfront. Because like there's a lot of people, I think there's a lot of people out there on the internet who would hear a compliment about their art, like, oh, you're a good artist, and then come on a show like this and maybe try to sneak in one or two pieces that they didn't say were someone else's, or someone
Yeah.
did pencils. Nah, not here. Like,
Well, we already know that would for sure happen because we're seeing people trying to pass off AI stuff as their own art that they created. So, definitely on something like that, I can guarantee there are plenty of people that would do that.
yeah. But it's like, I can't imagine like showing this piece to someone and not being like, no, that's a Jason Pearson Wolverine.
Right.
Yeah, this is like based on like ridiculously rough pencils he drew for a friend at like some sort of like a tour they were doing that's never been published and stuff, and it doesn't look much like this at all, but it's a Jason Pearson piece, so his name is on it, and I'm sure as hell didn't print out any blue lines of it. I don't know. I can't I can't get behind it. And like I did this Gerardo Zaffino
Is
Marv.
that when he started following you or
No,
commented?
man. I just like hit him up and complimented him about his dad because I love Jorge.
Oh, dude.
And
I just recently, so spoiler alert for the audience, this is our second time recording,
yep.
even though this will be your first time seeing this. And when I saw that piece, then I looked him up and then I looked his dad up because I was like, holy crap. I need to get anything these guys have ever done and study it and just fell in love with all of that
It's
stuff.
mind blowing, isn't it? Like,
Yes.
how are we not all talking about the Zaffinos, dude?
No clue.
Like Jorge did a good run on the Nam. He did Winterman, or not Winterman, Winter World.
Yep.
Winterman is Jean Paul Leon. I'm sorry.
Yep. Which is also awesome.
It's amazing.
But
But
Winter World
yeah,
is crazy.
Winter World. But he didn't really have much else. I was so excited because when I talked to Gerardo, he told me that they'd scanned all the original art that his family has for Holmes, a book that his
Mm,
dad had released only overseas. So I'm really
okay.
excited. Inky Knuckles is working on getting that out. Hopefully
Nice.
this upcoming year, dude. I'm
Yeah,
so stoked.
there was a couple Zafino pieces in this. I don't even know where it is. All my artist editions are now stacked on the floor. Oh, it's the Conan Colossal Edition artist book. So there was a couple of Zafino pieces in there that I spotted after seeing them. Like, is this the same guy? I'm like, oh no, that was his son's art that I saw. This is the dad. And then I just went down this rabbit hole and probably spent way too much money.
Oh, dude. Well, besides you going broke, that makes me so happy. Like, and
Yeah.
like that's one of my favorite things about the channel, man, is like I get to suggest all this weird niche crap that I find, not crap, weird niche stuff that I find,
Yep.
and I hear back from people like a year later, like, I can't believe I'd never heard of this. Like, I collected every issue, or I got, every cover, and blah 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 blah. I've talked to people that have went to cons and met people and commissioned art. It's just like, dude, that makes my heart so happy to give
That's
back
so
to the
cool.
medium.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, listen, man, I've taken up a bit of your time once again. If we add them together, we've probably spent about, 2.5 hours or more together here. Um, I really appreciate you coming on, and I appreciate you being gracious enough to offer, since we had technical issues last time, to come on and do this again with me. And I would hope you would come on again in the future, because it's really just, I know we could have an endless, like, 3 hour. It'd be like one of your documentaries, but it'll be an episode of my podcast. It'd be my first, like, 6 hour podcast.
Dude, it's like that happens to me every time I do interviews. I'm like, shut up, man. Shut up. Please
No,
stop. You've been talking to
no,
Kelly Jones for 7.5 hours. Leave the man alone.
it's great, and I'd love to have you back on in the future.
Dude, anytime. Say the word. I got nothing
Sweet.
to do but draw and read comics.
Well, I want to give you the opportunity here to let everybody know the best places to follow you, your YouTube channel. Obviously, if they're not subscribed to that, they need to get on that, and how they can contact you if they want to get a commission done and all that good stuff. So the spotlight is yours. Take it away.
Cool. So if you guys are interested in documentaries and videos, I do a lot of indie spotlight stuff, which is just like shining a spotlight on independent creators and books that you might not have heard of from now and from the past for a bunch of different reasons, that kind of stuff. Check out my YouTube channel. If you guys are interested in my art, I post everything to my Instagram channel that I do. I also run a Facebook group, which is Jerk Comics. And it's Jerk Comics across everything, by the way, guys. It's either Jerk Comic or Jerk Comics with an S. I try to keep it Jerk Comic for domain names and stuff, just so it's easier. But Instagram is where you can keep up with my art. That's probably the best place to message me as far as like social media if you're looking for a commission. If you guys are looking for something special or I don't respond to you on Instagram, feel free to hit me up at jerkcomic@gmail.com. Questions about documentaries, anything you got. I always love talking to people too. And if you just want to support me, or fund the production of my documentaries, which is really what you are doing, use my Patreon page. I am not joking, and you can look at how long it takes me to do stuff, and it's not because I don't work on it. I spent 3.5 years on the Sam Keith doc. My play revenue from YouTube is about $24 a month.
Yeah.
So after taxes, I essentially do not get paid for the YouTube channel. So
This
if you,
is this is what people do not understand about YouTube. They see all these, like, if you see a video that has 100,000 views on it, guys, that does not mean much when it comes to the actual revenue on the back end. You have to be getting tens of millions of views
yeah.
every day to make a decent living off of YouTube.
So if you guys want to, support past documentaries, if you're just super, like, oh, I can't believe he did a Sam Keith doc and I want to give the guy $20, you can use Ko-Fi. best place though, go over to Patreon, sign up there. It's once a month charge. There's like a bunch of different tiers and stuff. You can support how you want, but that stuff goes mostly so that you don't have to spend money on obscure magazines, old books. I really comb the world for stuff to try to stick in the documentary. So it does help me out a lot. But that's probably about all you guys want to hear about and from me tonight. Because if you watch my docs, you know, if Nerdy Wigs don't tell me to shut up, I ain't gonna shut up. I'll just keep talking.
Well, listen, man, thank you again. Hang out with me for a moment while I give my spiel. Everyone, go support Uncle Jerk wherever you can, in whatever means that you would like to. Check out his awesome videos on YouTube. Check him out on Instagram. Get a commission done, man. This guy's work is amazing, even though he's very humble about it. I want to encourage you guys, if you do listen over on Apple Podcasts, you could be the first one to do a review. Still doesn't look like anybody's doing a review over there. So if you want to go do a review and preferably a positive one. I hope you're listening because you actually like the podcast. That would be cool. But go over there, give a review, like, subscribe, share on YouTube, all that good stuff. Everything is at Nerdy Musings because we like that consistency with the branding. In the meantime, everybody, keep it nerdy.